The case of Nnamdi Kanu has taken another shocking turn as Burkina Faso's president, Ibrahim Traoré, takes a bold step to secure the IPOB leader's freedom. Reports indicate that Traoré recently visited Russia, where he held discussions with President Vladimir Putin regarding Kanu's release and the broader issue of self-determination in Africa.
During my recent visit to Moscow, I met privately with the President of the Russian Federation. Our discussion went beyond trade and security to address the moral duty of global leaders to defend justice. I raised the issue of Nnamdi Kanu, explaining that his case is bigger than one man. It reflects what Africa stands for in the eyes of the world, and whether we will continue to silence our own voices for justice or unite to uphold universal human rights. I explained clearly that Nnamdi Kanu's voice has awakened millions. Agree or disagree with his methods, his message resonates with many Africans who feel unheard, unrepresented, and neglected. I told him that Kanu's imprisonment has become a symbol not of division, but of the unfinished business of African freedom. The Russian president listened closely. He asked questions not as a politician seeking advantage, but as a man trying to understand the deeper current behind this issue. We spoke about the political implications, but also about humanity, the simple truth that no one should be punished indefinitely for speaking their mind, especially when that speech seeks justice. I told him plainly, what happens to Nnamdi Kanu affects the moral balance of Africa. When one voice of freedom is silenced, every other voice grows weaker. And when one African is unjustly caged, the rest of us remain partly enslaved. He nodded and responded thoughtfully. He said, Africa deserves to breathe freely. It deserves leaders who protect its conscience, not imprison it. Those words struck me deeply. I urged him to use his country's diplomatic weight to open channels of conversation, not confrontation with the Nigerian government. I made it clear that the goal is not interference but mediation, not pressure but peace. The Russian Federation, I said, can help foster dialogue that respects Nigeria's sovereignty while promoting justice and humanitarian principles. He agreed that lasting peace is built not by suppressing truth but by confronting it. He said Russia would be open to facilitating talks that encourage a peaceful and fair resolution, and to standing with African nations that seek equity rather than exploitation. We both understood that Africa's struggles are not isolated. Every unjust imprisonment, every silenced truth, weakens the moral foundation of the global order. The same world that speaks loudly of democracy must also listen when Africans demand it in their own way. As I left Moscow, I carried with me a renewed belief that justice can still prevail, not through force, but through cooperation and moral courage. The Russian president's response gave me hope that the world is beginning to understand Africa's new tone. We are no longer asking for permission to be free. We are asserting our right to live in dignity. Nnamdi Kanu's case has become more than a legal issue. It is now a moral test for Nigeria, for Africa, and for all who claim to stand for justice. If we can unite to ensure his fair release and humane treatment, then perhaps we can also unite to redefine Africa's destiny. I will continue to speak, not out of sentiment, but out of duty. History will not forgive silence when justice calls. I believe that one day soon, Africa will look back and remember this moment as the turning point when nations began to act with conscience, and when the world began to listen to Africa not as a subject, but as a partner. For Nnamdi Kanu, and for every voice silenced by power, we will not stop until freedom and fairness triumph. I listened to his recent speech in which he said he is dying inside, that the only thing that can revive him is Biafra, and I was heartbroken. Those words were not merely a cry for independence. They were the cry of a man who has given everything, even his health, for what he believes is right. No leader with a conscience can ignore such a cry. When I heard him speak of death and despair, I felt the pain of every African freedom fighter who has ever been misunderstood, persecuted, or abandoned by the very people he sought to defend. His voice reminded me of the days of our ancestors of Lumumba, Sankara, and Nkrumah, men who were demonized when alive and celebrated only after they were gone. Must we repeat that cycle? Must Africa always wait until her heroes are dead before she honors their sacrifices? I told the Russian president exactly that Nnamdi Kanu's situation has gone beyond the boundaries of politics. It is now a humanitarian concern, an issue of conscience for the entire African continent. I said to him, If this man dies in silence, history will not only question Nigeria, it will question all of us who had the power to speak and chose to remain silent. The Russian president looked at me for a long moment and said, "President Traoré, your voice carries the anger of truth. No man who fights for his people should die in chains." Those words struck deep. They reminded me that justice is not a Western concept. It is a universal principle that must be defended everywhere, especially in Africa, where oppression still wears new faces and speaks new languages. I told him that Africa is not asking for pity, nor for external rescue. We are asking for fairness, for mutual respect, and for space to define our destiny. Nnamdi Kanu's struggle may have been born in Nigeria, but the spirit behind it lives in every African who refuses to be silent in the face of injustice. I emphasize that his detention, despite court rulings and international appeals, is eroding trust in Africa's democratic process. It tells the world that in Africa, justice can still be ignored when it becomes inconvenient to those in power. That is a dangerous message, one that undermines every effort we are making to build strong, credible, and accountable governments. The Russian president agreed that Africa must not be treated as a continent of perpetual victims, but as a partner capable of determining its own moral course. He acknowledged that Moscow would be willing to open quiet diplomatic channels to encourage Nigeria toward a resolution that preserves both its sovereignty and its humanity. When I left that meeting, I felt the weight of our shared responsibility as leaders. I realized that the fate of one man, somewhere in a detention cell, could shape the future of how the world perceives Africa's moral integrity. Since that day, I have instructed my diplomatic team to maintain communication with our Russian counterparts. The goal is simple: to transform sympathy into strategy and empathy into effective diplomacy. We must ensure that dialogue replaces delay and that compassion replaces condemnation. To the Nigerian government, I once again say this with all respect: release Nnamdi Kanu not as a concession, but as a gesture of courage. Let his freedom mark the beginning of national healing. Let it show the world that Nigeria remains a land where justice still breathes and where leadership still carries a human heart. To the African Union, I say, the time to act is now. The silence of our continental institutions has become too heavy, too loud. We cannot continue to preach unity while ignoring the pain of those who cry for freedom within our own borders. To our youth, the ones watching, questioning, and sometimes losing faith, I say this: do not give up on Africa. Change comes slowly, but it comes surely. Men like Nnamdi Kanu have planted seeds that will one day bloom into nations of justice, dignity, and equality. And to Nnamdi Kanu himself, if my words ever reach you, hold on. You are not forgotten. Across this continent, millions are praying for you, millions are speaking your name, and millions are carrying forward the vision you represent. The struggle you began is no longer yours alone. It belongs to every African who refuses to kneel before injustice. Africa is rising not with weapons, but with wisdom, not through chaos, but through courage. And we will not rest until the conscience of this continent is restored. If I must travel again, if I must speak to more world leaders, I will do so without hesitation. Because the life of one African who speaks truth to power is worth more than the silence of 1,000 who choose comfort over conviction. In every era, there comes a moment when history pauses and waits to see who will stand for what is right. This is that moment. For Nigeria, for Africa, for Nnamdi Kanu. Justice delayed is not just justice denied, it is freedom betrayed. And Africa will not betray her own again.